Hello once again, friends, and welcome to the next episode of the Bible Yogi. We're in the middle of the story of Joseph, part 5. This is where Joseph saves the world. A quick synopsis how we got here. Joseph's brothers, starving in the land of Canaan, have come to Egypt to buy grain. Joseph hatches his plan to save his family, and Joseph imprisons Simeon and sends the rest of his brothers back to Canaan to bring Benjamin. And a quick reminder is my point, or one of the main points in telling this story, is to show all of the Messianic types that are present in this story and how they relate to Jesus Christ and how he fulfilled a lot of these Messianic type prophecies. So now we take up our story. The brothers are headed back to the land of Canaan after buying the grain from Joseph, who is governor over the Egyptian empire. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey provender in the inn, he espied his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. And he said unto his brethren, My money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, What is this that God hath done unto us? And they came unto Jacob their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, The man who is the Lord of the land spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, Hereby shall I know that you are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver you your brother. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob said unto their father, said unto them, Me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and ye will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. Interesting how he seems to blame the brothers here on the fact that Joseph is dead. Remember, they gave him the blood-stained, multicolored robe as evidence that a beast ate him. But here, Jacob is, I guess at the very least, he's suspicious of that story. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, Slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. Now this is a bad deal. Jacob is not about to sacrifice 2 of his grandchildren on top of the other children that he believes he's already missing. But Reuben is, trying. He wants to save his family. And he said, My son shall not go with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in which you go, then shall you bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. And here again is an amusing little cartoon by the Bing Image creator, where the donkey and one of the Israel's sons is very surprised to see the money in his sack of grain. I love that little donkey going. The children of Israel, they're forced to return with Benjamin. And the famine was sore in the land, Genesis 43, verses 1 through 16. And it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had a brother? You dimwits, right? What are you doing to me? And they said, The man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly have known that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel his father, Send the lad with me, And we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be a surety for him. I will guarantee his safety. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, and let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned the second time. Now here Judah, he doesn't offer up his two sons, go ahead and slay my two sons. He just says, look, give me the blame. Whatever that means. It's just like, I'll be responsible. So it's a slightly different approach. And the father goes with it. And their father Israel said unto him, if it must be so now, do this. Take the best fruits of the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh and nuts and almonds, and take double the money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carried again in your hand. Peradventure, perhaps, it was an oversight. Take also your brother Benjamin, and arise, go again unto the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. Now, Israel, we may recall, is pretty good at this negotiation of trying to assuage someone's anger. If you remember, his brother Esau came after him with 400 men. And I know that if Esau was coming after me with 400 men, I would consider his intentions malevolent. But what happened was Israel lined up his entire fortune, everything he owned from his family, from the little sheep all the way down to his servants, his children, his wives, and then finally him. And by the time Esau got to see Israel, he was thrilled to see him, and the reunion was very happy. So, you got to listen to Israel when he talks about how to assuage anger. And the men took that present, and they took double the money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. Genesis 43:16-29. We're getting to further along with the plan that Joseph has been concocting in his head. Joseph invites them to dinner. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of the house, his main servant, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. Now, this word slay here is a little bit problematic because it's actually the same word that Reuben used a chapter ago, saying, slay my two children. Here, however, it's very clear that Joseph is ordering him to go slay the fatted calf, or, some veal or whatever for the meal. That's what he's talking about here. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And Joseph's brothers were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we were brought in, that he may seek occasion against us, and fall upon us, and take us for servants and our donkeys. And these guys are paranoid. Joseph, of course, has none of this ill intent, so we might chalk this up to a little bit of projection, perhaps, because we know that these guys have done some pretty shady things, like, for example, throwing Joseph into a pit, conspiring to kill him, and then finally agreeing that selling him into slavery was a good choice to get rid of him. So, I mean, they might, I don't know, not deal with themselves uprightly if they were in Joseph's position. And said, O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of the sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. See, Israel's, he's looking out for him, so they can say this kind of stuff and appease the wrath of Joseph, at least they think, who is mad at him and trying to trap him in some way. And other money we have brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And the man, Joseph's servant, said, Peace be to you, fear not. Our God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And then he brings Simeon out unto them. So certainly this shows the good intentions of Joseph with the brothers. And the man who brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet. Now, this is not a miracle or a coincidence or anything, but surely enough, at the Last Supper of Christ, Jesus took a moment to wash the disciples' feet. As we see in the in the Gospel of John, at the Last Supper of Christ, we see that Jesus took a moment to wash everyone's feet. John 13:5, after that, Jesus poureth water into a basin, and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Later he says, as I have done to you, so you do to others. As he became servant to you guys, so shall you become servant to all. And Jesus said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. Matthew 5:17, think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. So, from this, I'm trying to make the impression that even the smallest little details of Jesus' life was in some measure foretold in the Old Testament. And particularly here, the feet washing has been entered into the story. Just this one little scripture, boom, there it is. And Jesus fulfilled that one also. He didn't have to. I don't think anyone would have noticed, but he did. And he did it to make the point that to be greatest of all, we must be servant of all. And now we're back to the supper. The brothers prepared the present for when Joseph would come in at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and they bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, is your father well? And they answered, thy servant our father is in good health. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. Now, of course, this is the fulfillment of Joseph's prophetic dream that he had some 21 years ago when he was a teenager, 16, 17 years old. He had the dream of the sheaves, where his sheath in the field stood up, and the brothers all had their sheaves, and all of their sheaves bowed down to his in obeisance. And it was because of this dream that the brothers wanted to kill him. That and the fact that he didn't have to, tend the flocks like they did. They had to chase around a bunch of smelly cattle and sheep and goats all day long while he pranced around in his coat of many colors. They were very, very upset with him, very jealous, very angry. And then he comes along with this dream that you guys are all going to bow down to me. So they ended up selling him into slavery, which leads us to this moment. When now, after Joseph has stored all the grain in the land of Egypt for 7 good years, now everyone has to buy corn from him. They bow down their heads and they make obeisance, thus fulfilling Joseph's dream. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, is this your younger brother of whom you spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. So now he sees his little brother, who he hasn't seen in 21 years. Last time he saw him, the kid was probably, 12, 13? Now here he is, a grown man. Joseph becomes overwrought with emotions. This also is a messianic type. And Joseph made haste, for his soul did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there. Now, weeping like this is certainly a sign of empathy, deep empathy, which is also a sign of genius, of just the highest form of human conscience. If you go and ask ChatGPT of what is the relationship between genius and empathy, and boom, she'll go on for a beautiful long chapter. I'd read it to you, but just trust me, go do that. And there is a strong connection between depth of empathy and genius, and then how much value you can bring into the world. And in the story of Joseph, we see this very clearly. If he didn't love people, if he didn't love mankind, maybe he wouldn't have done such a great job, such a studious thoughtful and fastidious job collecting all that grain over the 7 years of plenty in the land of Egypt. Maybe he, this year we got enough or whatever, and stopped doing his job. More people would have died because he ended up feeding the world or the known world during those 7 years of famine. Jesus also was shown to be extremely empathetic. In the Gospel of John, we have the story of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. There are other stories in the Gospels about Jesus and Mary and Martha where Jesus is having dinner over at their house and he's just relaxing and having a meal with them, and they have conversations, and the conversations are not always, well, at any rate, here Lazarus has died, and so Jesus is coming to see them. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother would not have died. And Jesus said, Where have ye laid them? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. And Jesus wept. And then said the Jews, Behold how we loved him. And now this is the point. Jesus was God in the flesh. He had a body like ours. And so he didn't do this for theater. He didn't weep because he wanted the world to see how much he loved Lazarus. He wept because it was real, because he felt it, because his best friend on earth had died, and his sister, who he also loved, was weeping. Mary and Martha were all crying their eyes out because Lazarus had died, and now she's like, oh, if only you were here, you wouldn't have died. So she had a lot of faith in who he was. Maybe, I don't know, maybe she didn't understand how much power Jesus really had until this moment. Because as we all know, Jesus turned around and then raised Lazarus from the dead. But anyway, that's for another tale another time. Here we're just focusing on the depth of empathy that Jesus demonstrated. This is also predicted in Isaiah, one of the better, more pronounced. He's like the I don't know. How many people do you know named Isaiah, right? Isaiah Thomas, Isaiah Likely, etc., etc. Isaiah was just a major prophet, considered the most major prophet of all the major prophets. I think that's safe to say. And Isaiah 53 is the most seminal messianic prophecy in his book. So let's read the one verse. He's talking about the mettle of the Messiah, and he says, He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. So it's very important that we make this tie of deep empathy between the messianic prophecies, Joseph, and then again, Jesus. I mean, who wants a Messiah that could care less about you, right? We want one that, he's emotionally vested in us, right? Genesis 43:30-34, the meal is served back to Joseph and his brothers. And Joseph washed his face. Remember, he just finished weeping in his bedroom. And he went out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread. Let's eat. Bon appetit, right? And they set before him the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled at one another. It's like, how did these servants know who's in what order? After all, there's 11 of us, right? But they got the order right. That's a little bit scary. It's like, 2 to the 11th? That they would have got that right by chance. And Joseph took and sent messages unto them from before him. But Benjamin's meal was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank and were merry with him. And here's the being image creator's idea of what a nice meal for Benjamin looks like. I guess some random animals just happen to show up in the dining hall, and they're happy too. The brothers steal the silver cup of divination. I hope you see where this one's going. I've given you all the hints about messianic prophetic types. What does this ring a bell? And Joseph commanded the steward of his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in the sack's mouth again. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money, and he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. And when they were gone out of the city and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his servant, Get up and follow after the men. And when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Why have you rewarded evil for good? Is not this it, the silver cup, in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth? Ye have done evil in so doing. Divineth. What do you mean divineth? Well, you tell the future, right? We know Joseph can do that because, after all, he told the future 21 years ago, and here it is unfolding. He interpreted Pharaoh's dreams of the 7 years of good harvest, followed by the 7 years of famine. This man tells the future. He interprets dreams of God. He communes with God. And he says, I use the silver cup for just such an occasion. Okay. And the servant overtook them and spoke unto them these same words. And they said unto them, Wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servant should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths the first time around, we brought again. We brought back to you guys unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of the Lord's house silver or gold? With whomsoever of thy servants be it found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's servants. They're very indignant. They're trying to turn their lives around here, And the servant said, Now also let it be according to your words. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and the rest of you shall be blameless. He doesn't want to imprison all you guys. He doesn't want to kill anyone. Just the one guy who's guilty shall become my servant. And they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground and opened every man his sack. They know they're innocent. And the servant searched, and beginning at the eldest and left at the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. And here's Benjamin just absolutely shocked. And you can see the donkey is also very shocked. And they rent their clothes and laid at every man his donkey and returned to the city. Now note that Joseph could have planted anything in the sacks. Some jewelry, a crown, a scepter maybe, but he used his specific silver cup. However, silver was not the principal value of it. Joseph specifically cited its use for divination, that is, telling the future, interpretation of dreams, that is, for communing with God. Now, where in the Gospels is there mentioned a similar special cup? Jesus, the Last Supper, and the Holy Grail. Boom. Matthew 26, And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them, and they made ready the Passover meal. And when the evening was come, Jesus sat down with the 12 apostles, kind of similar to the 12 brothers at the other meal we're juxtapositioning. And Jesus took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for the remission of sins. The Holy Communion, in fact, the Holy Grail. Genesis 44, 14 through 34, the redemption of Judah. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. More obeisance, more fulfilling of prophetic dreams. And Joseph said unto them, What deed is this that ye have done? Wot ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine? Wot, past participle of to wit, meaning to consider or to think. In other words, consider ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine, tell the future, etc. And Judah said, What shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. In other words, the fact that they had sold Joseph into slavery all those years ago has haunted them this entire time. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found. And he said, God forbid that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get up in peace unto your father. Then Judah came near unto him and said, O my Lord, let my servant, me, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears. And from chapter 44, verse 19 to verse 30, Judah recaps the entire sequence of events that we just finished reading again. And to the point where he begged Israel to let him take Benjamin down to see the governor of Egypt. It shall come to pass, verse 31, when our father Israel sees that the lad is not with us, that he will die. And thy servant shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant our father with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore I pray thee, let thy servant me abide instead of the lad Benjamin, a bondman, a servant to my Lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see the evil that shall come upon my father? So Judah now has the heart to give his own life for the life of his brother, where 21 years ago he was willing to give up his brother's life because he annoyed him. Judah has basically shown that his soul has been redeemed. And you guys probably all saw this coming a mile away, but that was the whole purpose of Joseph's plan. I mean, he knew his brothers. He recognized his brothers right away. He also knew that his dreams were being fulfilled, that they were bowing down to him as he was governor of Egypt. But what he really wanted to see was, where are their hearts at? Are these guys worth rescuing now? Did they learn anything in the 21 years I've been gone? And so Judah basically proves to Joseph, yeah, we've learned. We never should have done that. Take me instead. Throw me in jail. I'll become your servant, but let Benjamin go back to his dad. At this point, Joseph could not refrain himself before all that stood by him, and he cried, "Cause every man to go out from me." And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And he wept aloud. And the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray thee. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither, for God sent me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years hath a famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. So I'm sure his brother were happy to hear that. Really? You're not going to just kill us for who we are? Well, okay, right? And ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that ye have seen. And ye shall make haste, and bring down my father hither. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck, and wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. Moreover, he kissed all of his brethren, and wept upon them. And after that his brothers talked with him. And his brethren went up out of Egypt, and came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father, and told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he believed him not. Bam! You can just imagine that, right? After 21 years of believing your son was eaten by beasts. And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is enough. Joseph my son is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die. And they took their cattle and their goods, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt. Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his son's daughter, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt. Okay, so to conclude our thoughts on this particular episode, through Joseph's machinations, he was able to determine that his brothers' hearts had changed, especially through Judah's willingness to sacrifice his life for the life of his half-brother Benjamin. Empathy. We saw how Joseph felt things very deeply and wept over finally being reunited with his family, and how this relates to the empathy of Jesus Christ. Rescue. Joseph was thus able to convince his brothers of the coming 5 years of famine and to rescue his entire family. Prophecy, the supper of the 12 sons of Israel, is a precursor of the Last Supper of Christ with the 12 apostles. Prophecy, The silver cup used by Joseph is a precursor of the cup Jesus used at the Last Supper, now known as the Holy Grail. And there's one more episode. I think we can conclude the story of Joseph with one more episode. Until next time, you all take care.